Hey y'all, Sid from Academic Success, and I'm here to talk to you about the best research-based study methods. So up first, we have cognitive learning theory, or the theory that this whole presentation hinges on, which is cognitive learning, or the way we think about how we think, learn, feel, and act, which relies on metacognition, which just means thinking about thinking. This is important because it helps our brain process detailed information. When we are actively thinking about processing information, how we process it, which ways are best. I know it's confusing, but it really does work and it really does matter. So it's retaining information, making connections, and increasing our confidence in our ability to succeed. So, what are processing strategies according to cognitive learning? So our brain's constantly looking for patterns or the distinctive and differing features of information that we learn. Cognitive learning strategies lean into this and enhance what our brains are already wired to do. So you're just deliberately engaging a thought pattern. So the best strategies incorporate intentional, purposeful studying that combine both words and imagery. So things like examples and non-examples, concept maps, content structures or maps, memorization through imagery and visual aids, etc. So let's have a look. Examples and non-examples. Can you tell I didn't get a STEM degree? That's fine. So here's a very, very basic one about invertebrates and what is and isn't a vertebrate. An invertebrate. A concept map. So a concept map obviously shows the relationship between topics, subtopics, themes, and all the other little things you might want to fit in there. And this concept map shows how a concept map works and relates to its little ideas. Kind of meta, but it works. You have a content structure, which is kind of like the bigger, badder sibling of a concept map, where each of the little columns here is how a concept, is a concept map in and of itself. So it shows the relationship between several concepts. This one is really, really good for end of term studying if you have a comprehensive exam. Then you have things like visual aids. So you may be familiar with the Frayer model, which gives you a round sort of understanding, a holistic understanding of a topic, where you might have definitions in one box, characteristics in another, examples in one, non-examples in the other, or the title of the topic in the middle, or even a picture. It's nice because it gives you a very visual understanding of a topic, but some people prefer lists, so you might use a timeline template. Now, a timeline template or spectrum doesn't have to go with dates or chronology. You can use it in a number of ways, but it just depends on what kind of learner you are and how you prefer to study. So here's an example of a Frayer model. I used the Baroque time frame, which is an era of architecture, music, dance, painting, sculpture, and poetry. And do not worry, I will not read this whole thing to you, but you can pause and see how I filled this out in accordance to how I might do it for like an intro to art history or art history survey 1 situation. And then I did a timeline of the English language. So when you do a timeline, I know I said timelines don't have to be time, but also timelines can be pictures. You can use a lot of different ways and incorporate different visual aid methods together. So here I did one for the history of the English language with examples. So, you can add whatever you want to anything. Here we have a multi-Venn diagram, which, hey, a lot of people sleep on the Venn diagram, but the more circles you add, the more complicated it gets, and the easier it is to visualize a complicated situation, because it literally lets you put each individual thing in its correct cubby, and then once everything is in its cubby, you can see those relationships a little bit more clearly. Other processing strategies are, hey, it seems simple, but we often overlook it. It's just giving yourself time to think. We don't always remember just how important thinking is and how long it takes. You can't sit down and write an essay without ever having thought about it, right? No, you need the drive to the grocery store to think about what you're gonna write. You need when you're letting the conditioner set in your hair to write, when you're waiting for spaghetti noodles to boil. We give ourselves time to think, and then we do well. Processing takes time, and thinking about thinking as a way to process takes even more. So just be patient and give yourself time to do things. And then also taking meaningful notes, not just notes to keep yourself awake in class or notes that just state the obvious. So don't just underline and highlight willy-nilly while you read. As you read, make sure you are taking careful notes that make connections and ask or answer questions in the text or that students or yourself ask around you. And here's a screenshot from one of my favorite TV shows in Schitt's Creek when Alexis is highlighting her entire marketing textbook and her brother David makes a joke about missing a spot. And this just highlights, why you only highlight or underline the important stuff. Because if you highlight everything, the important stuff doesn't jump out anymore.